Hello everyone, and welcome to another part of the Suchet review. And this one is a big one, as this is the one where we look at all the other changes outside of the new divisions, and there is quite a lot to cover. A big balance patch, some reworks, some new additions of new things. And we start with a rework in the artillery tab, as mortars now got a quite hefty nerf. They now have a longer aim time, 10 seconds, and the bigger the mortar, the longer the reload time is between salvos as well. Plus the flight time is slightly reduced, and the damage is also a bit reduced as well. So mortars should not be as OP anymore. They still should be more potent than they were in the first version when they first came out, but they won't be as obnoxious as they are in the current live version, which is a great change. The shot between salvos for artillery also has been increased, especially for the bigger guns. So Malkov and so on should be somewhat weaker now as well, and which is nice as well, as they were a bit too strong in how fast they were dishing out the damage for such big guns. So artillery in general slightly nerf, which is needed. It's nice that artillery finally does something, but it did a bit too much maybe, and the nerf to the big mortars here is nice. You see the small mortars still reload faster, so they're a bit more potent there. 107mm in between, but they obviously also deal quite a significant amount less damage than these up here. So that is the first change. And then the next change is rockets come out faster out of planes now, especially some of the planes that really struggled with getting all their rockets out. For example, the A-10A. They now get their rockets out at the maximum 2 passes. So every plane only needs 1 or 2 passes to get all the rockets out, and then it can return home, reload, and come back out, and you don't have to stay around for too long with those rocket planes, which is nice. So those are 2 nice reworks and changes. And then in the helicopter tab, we have some nice additions. And the first one, or like the big one, is that helicopters now have ECM. And the Apache is one of the top dogs, so it also gets the highest ECM for helicopters with 20. This also is not just a stats change. They don't just get them as stats, they also get them visually in-game, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. Good job there once more by the Eugen team on making the game look even better. And distinguish high-level helicopters from lower-level helicopters. For example, the Cobra stays at 0 ECM. On the Soviet side, we have the Mi-24 VP with 20 ECM and the Mi-24P 20 ECM. As you can see, the looks of the tooltips also have slightly improved, which is nice. They made a pass over there. Ranges also are cleaner now. Those are clean-cut numbers, not some weird numbers anymore. So Eugen doing some nice passes over quality of life in general, which is really nice. Yeah, VP at 20, Akula at 20, the P at 10, and then the Black Hawk and a lot of the supply helicopters went up to 20 as well, like the Mi-26, for example, is at 20 ECM, the Puma PC is at 20 ECM, and so on, and the Mi-9 as well, which is here, this one, also 20 ECM now. So you have some nice distinguishing things in the helicopter tab in general with the ECM, and the looks of it are really a great addition as well by Eugen. So yeah, with that we come to the balance changes, and there are quite a couple there as well. And we're gonna start with the nerfs, as the first nerf has come to the 5th Blinde. And there are quite a couple of nerfs here. We start in the tank tab, where you can see the Brennis now costs 175 points, from 160 points up. So, nerf there. And then the MX-30B got a bit cheaper, but it also only has 15 penetration on its main gun now. So, that is quite the change there. Then in the recon tab, The AMX 10 RC now has less penetration. And the AMX 10 RC Sublime has better penetration actually, but it went up in price a good bit as well. So yeah, price here unchanged. Price here went up. Penetration went up slightly as well, but also a good up in pricing. So there's a bit more differentiation between these two now as well. This is supposed to represent that they use different ammo for their gun. And yeah, the 10RC 16 penetration, slight nerf there. So that is nice. I don't know if that's enough yet. I would kind of doubt it. But in general, it's nice to see that the French across the board get nerfed. Another thing that has changed for all units though is that recon transport trucks with good optics and MG went up to 25 points. So the UATs and so on also now 25 points. Those were pretty much a no-brainer before. Now they're a bit more expensive. Another change to the French is that the Mirage 3E now is 10 points more expensive as well. So a couple of nice changes there. And yeah, French in general nerfed a bit. Oh, the AMX Prentice also went up in 1 penetration. These down to 16, these down to 15. So penetration here changed a bit. Yeah, B2 went down to 16 as well. So the French nerfed a bit with the main guns here down to 16. The others being more expensive. These down to 15 and still being heat. So that is a big difference as well, as that doesn't get higher, even if you get closer. And then 17 to 15 is a big difference. And yeah, then the other division that got nerfed on the NATO side is the 82nd. There's just some small changes here, but they're significant. They lost the access to mag rifles, and they lost the access to the M109 artillery pieces. So 82nd now, is similar to other airborne, bound to only small artillery pieces, and it's having to use its own infantry for damage. So that is interesting. Yeah. Also, there's now a stat for forward deployment down here. That tells you how far forward you can deploy your infantry, which is helpful as well. How far forward you can deploy. Here it's 3,534 meters, a number that maybe should change. Here it's 2,400. Yeah, but nice that it is shown on the unit card now. So yeah, 82nd nerfed slightly. A division that got buffed on the NATO side though is the 1st British Armored Division. And the British Army gets now cheaper armored rifles. They went from 50 to 45 points. They get cheaper Assault Pioneer Carl Gustavs. They went from 55 to 50 points. And they got higher availability. So a card worthwhile thinking about. Then a unit that has changed is the Lynx Recon that went up in speed from 180 or so to 270. So pretty fast little helicopter now, which is quite nice. And they got a buff on some of their main tanks. The Chieftain Mark 9 went from 180 to 170, and the Chieftain Mark 11 went from 200 to 190. So both of these got cheaper. Javelins went up in accuracy from 45 to 50, and from 50 to 55. And their aircraft, their Tornado fighter, that also is in the 2nd Panzergrenadier, went down in price as well from 260 to 245. So Tornado, in my eyes, now one of the best fighter planes out there when it comes to cost efficiency. I liked that thing before. I would say it's really nice now, with 15 points cheaper. And in general, the British just a significant amount more cost efficient now, with some cheaper infantry, cheaper tanks, slightly better recon, and better AA, and cheaper air. They got a significant amount of buffs, but they're not the division with the most buffs in this patch. As I would say, that honor goes to either the 7th Panzer, which now, first of all, got a small buff to the BTRs. The Mudschützen BTR got an availability buff. They come in the same availability as not normal Mudschützen yet now, which is a buff to 4th to the Schützen division as well, which is nice, as they were a bit annoying when you only had 6 of them. Now, you really want to take them, I would say, as having a fast 9 availability, high veterancy Mudschützen here is nice, next to the slower ones in the BMPs. And then, the other change are a lot of changes to their attacks. Starting with the T-55, that got better base accuracy. Accuracy going up from the base stats of 30 base accuracy and 10 in motion to 45 and 25. So a 15% accuracy buff, which is quite significant, especially as it currently doesn't come with a price change. Maybe it should go back up to 50 with those changes to its accuracy, as this means it's pretty powerful. Like it's 50% accuracy buff, which is heavy. And other tanks of theirs got a similar treatment, as the T-55 AM2 is a heavily modernized T-55 version of the East Germans, and this one now comes with a base stat of 55 accuracy and 45 on the move, because it had a good stabilizer, had a good fire control system. So 55% base accuracy, up from 50, and the 15% in motion before is now 45% in motion. So these are the tanks in this deck that you can really use for pushing, because their stabilizers actually are pretty solid on the move now. So shooting on the move with this tank is absolutely fine now. And yeah, you also see all of these got a, like these two also got an availability boost per card. The MX, the T-55 AM2B went up from 4 to 6, and the AM2 went up from 6 to 9. So you get quite a lot more of these now. And then the other tanks that got buffed are the T-72s. These went up by 1 frontal armor each. These were at 14, now 15, 12, now 13, 11, now 12. So that is already a significant one. And then they also got a slight boost to their stabilizer. At least the M and the M1 version. They went from 35 to 40% accuracy on motion. So the T-72 also, then on top of this, getting an availability boost. So this deck now can spit out tanks, and those tanks are even half decent now, at least when it comes to accuracy. Penetration-wise and armor-wise, the T-55 is obviously still not winning any championships, but it's not the worst. And the T-72s, with the 1 extra frontal armor, are actually pretty competitive. And adding on top of that you get them in really good numbers, like you can get 18 of these, and then you put like the amount of tanks you can get in this deck is quite insane. Like easily 72 tanks, and they are somewhat affordable. So yeah, this division got a pretty massive buff in that regard already. And then if you go to the helicopter tab, the Me-24Ds, not just the one in this deck, but also in the 4th Mudschützen, all Me-24Ds now come with better availability. They are the first Me-24s that come with 2 availability per card instead of 1. The Me-24P, obviously 10 ECM, so that's nice as well. And the D versions, this one is the one with Feller guns. The 4th has a couple more options. All now come with 2 availabilities on the basic. So that is a pretty significant buff in general to this division. But there might be a division that got a similar amount of buffs, and that is the 35th Air Assault, and where we have a good amount of changes as well. Starting in the infantry tab, where their Superi, the Desert Superis now have TNT instead of an RPG, which makes them more fitting for their role. 30 points also relatively cheap. And we have a new couple of infantry units. The Spetsnaz got changed. They were before a 7-man squadron with an RPG-29. Now there's a 4-man squadron with an RPG-29. 435 points, pretty cheap, with forward deployment. And that is on an RPG-29, the best anti-tank in the game, anti-tank rocket launcher, so that is pretty powerful. And then the normal Spetsnaz is now a beast of a unit, as it is a 12-man squadron with an RPO, 10 AKSUs, and 2 PKMs. So the damage output on the short range is insane. The damage output on the mid range is still fine, but and they are tanky. And all of that for 60 points, which might actually be a bit too cheap. But this deck needed a buff, so that is absolutely one for sure already. And the nice thing is, KDA gets the same treatment. They also get the Spetsnaz and the Spetsnaz OP. So it's at the same time a buff to my favorite division, to the KDA. Yes, that division also kind of needed it, so I'm really happy with that. Then, the next thing is a new AA unit that got added to this deck. And that is the ZSU-23 for AM2 Afghansky, which looks like the Priusa and Co. Thing is, it doesn't have radar, which means it has less range against planes and less accuracy on the motion, but can't get hit by seed, and it's also cheaper. And against helicopters, its accuracy and range is still pretty powerful, still has a quadruple amount of guns, and you get it in good availability, so that is quite nice, next to 20 ECM Aquilas, which is good as well, and it looks pretty nice as well. So yeah, a frontline version of the ZSU, pretty cool. And then in the tank tab, we got them back, everyone, we got them back. The T-64 is back here, and it's actually even here in 2 versions now. The B version and the BB version we had before. So they are back in, and you get 2 cards here. You get the BB with 6 availability, and you even get a leader version. And you lose the T80B for it, but I would say that's absolutely fine, as you get 2 cards and you get a unique card of units. And the BB in general, also a really strong tank. Has an autoloader as well, with 10 rate of fire, so that is strong. Has 18 penetration, pretty powerful. 16 frontal armor is nice. And a pretty solid ATGM with the Agona as well. A range not the top end of the Soviet line, but still good range, comparable to all the NATO ATGMs. And 21 penetration, also pretty nice there. And 55 accuracy, not that bad. Cobra, we already know. And the B version is just like 2 less frontal armor. Accuracy wise, they are the same. So the gun is pretty good here as well. 55% accuracy, 45 on the motion is fine. Yeah, for the packed side. Obviously not quite comparable with NATO tanks, but 185 points for a tank like this is still pretty cool. And makes this deck a significant amount better. And then you also, on top of that, get one more 1-cost helo slot, with together with the better helos now, is quite nice. And the Mi-24Vs, they lost a bit of range. The Yak B got a bit nerfed in range against ground targets, but they got 10 points cheaper for it. So the Mi-24Vs, in my eyes, are even better now. I liked these as budget helicopters already before, and I think they're really strong now for 120 and 125 points. And then you also got one of your 3-cost air slots made into a 2-cost air slot. So, or no, I think it was the other way around. I think they might have been nerfed. I think that might be a miswriting, but no, 3-cost into a 2-cost slot. I think that might be the other way around, but I'm not sure. I had a lot of fun playing this deck though with the new units. It didn't matter about the air slots too much. The helicopters, really fun with the ECM now. The Afghansky is nice. Yeah, the Mi-24K also got a bit changed now. There's a new weapon system here on this one now. The UPK 23mm guns on this one. And then T-64s being back is great. And I think it's a good fit in this division to bring them back in. The Spetsnaz, just a lot of fun as well. So, yeah, good buff to this division. Also gives the KDA a forward deployment unit, So KDA will be fun now as well. And yeah, these are most of the changes. I missed left out a couple of smaller changes to the balance. And then we have one more bigger change on the map. So we will jump into a map and have a look at that. As you now can see on the minimap all the zones in games, and these are changing colors now. And then there's a couple of other changes. For example, down here the UI has improved, both for rules of engagement and for normal controls. You see combat, you see movement, you see special and loadout position. So for example here, artillery, smoke position, combat, movement, tank, smoke, combat, and so on. So nice improvement here. I like the new looks of the tooltips as well. The slightly bigger one. You can change the scaling of UI if it's too big for you. With like the options have a lot of things there. There's also one new. Okay, scratch that. That option I can't find. They improved the FX and the looks of bombs and MLRSs and rockets, and optimized them as well. So they say that they also now use less GPU, but it's looking better. Yeah, order display here, improvement there, and then yeah, it's, as we will be able to see in a second. Let's have a look at this with display wagon coming in there. You will now see the color change up here, which is nice. And then ATGM teams and SPG teams can enter buildings now. This is also going to happen with the HE teams, that are, HMG's teams, which are still coming up. But yeah, ATGM teams in buildings will be a big change to them. Those will be quite a bit more better with that, I would say. But yeah, the camera angles, I couldn't find that. So yeah, we'll try to look at the end if I can find it of the video. If not, we'll just end the video. And yeah, advanced radios now shown on the panel. Yeah, so you can see enemy blue. They said they will change the background of the minimaps for in the future to make it more readable, but it's a nice addition as well to be able to see all of this on the minimap now. ATGMs in buildings, also nice little small buff. And readability of hints, I feel, also is well improved now when you hover over everything. So good job there, Eugen. And yeah, I hope you like these changes. And yeah, we will end the video here. So thanks for watching. If you liked it, subscribe. And maybe leave a like so that more people see about these lovely changes that are coming to 1.0 as well. Bye bye and have a good one. Okay, I found it actually, everyone. This is the wargame angle. And then there's even one more. Where you have a fixed angle that... Okay, there's default, fixed angle, and so, and you also now saw the new improvement of enemy is winning, which, and so on. Like, yeah, you're winning, the enemy is winning. You now have better looking tips coming up as well for that. So they might be a bit too big, but in general, still, UI improvements here are pretty nice as well. And I love what Eugen is doing. But now, really, goodbye.